That segues well into a phrase you use often in the book, and Pastor Rob used it in his sermon today, being alive, and in particular, being alive in the story of Jesus. And so, while we will get to that later in the year, when we get to the Gospels a little more, we're right now in Genesis with you. But what do you mean by that phrase, being alive in the story of Jesus?
So let me answer that in a sort of a playful way. If we integrate the idea of God as creator with what we know of science, if we were to take the history of 13.7 billion-year history of the universe and shrink it into one day, until for most of the day, there were just physical forces like light and matter, energy, and so on. And then we get to a point partway through the day when on this little planet at least, life appears and develops. And for billions of years, life existed and no human beings existed. Now, from the fossil record, we get some idea of the primate ancestors. And it became clear when they developed language and culture that they started grasping, reaching for God. The way Paul said it in the book of Acts is that they started groping for God and hoping that they might find God. And they developed all kinds of religions and cultures and so on. But what's interesting is that for the vast length of human history, of the history of the universe and then human history, there were no church buildings, there were no organs, there were no creeds. In other words, God seemed happy for people to just be alive and for the earth to just be this living planet full of amazing living creatures. God loves it. We don't want to think that God is sort of sitting around here going, oh boy, I can't wait to get these dinosaurs so that we can get some narthex and sanctuaries and sacristies built. No, God loves love. And so in Genesis 1, the first chapter of the Bible, God makes light and says it's good. And then God breathes in us the breath of life and says it's very good. And then we fast forward to Jesus, and Jesus says, I have come so that people will have life and have life to the full, life abundant. One of the early church scholars, Heinrich, said, the glory of God is a human being, or maybe better said, the glory of God is human beings fully alive. And so for us to live into our full humanity, to be fully alive, this is what God loves. He loves life in all of its abundance. The living God loves life. And for us to enter into life and be full of life, this is really God's desire. I often think it would be fun, I don't plan to do this, but it would be fun to write sort of the Devil's Bible, where we take all of these statements and we twist them into what a lot of people actually believe. So that Jesus might say, the thief, this is from John chapter 10, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and so have I. Or the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come to make people more religious, so they can judge others. But no, Jesus says the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come that human beings can have life and life to the full. So that's why this word alone is so important to me. I hate to say it, but the strain of Christianity that a lot of us were raised in was really, I often call it evacuation. Let's get away from life, and let's go to heaven, where we just sit and sing and think noble thoughts.
Can you say that phrase again?
No.
Brian, can you say that phrase again? We missed it, the last word.
Sorry. I often think that I was raised with an evacuation plan. That the whole purpose of Christianity was to get us away from this world and into heaven, which was like an eternal church service where we just thought lofty thoughts and sang. I'm all for singing, thinking lofty thoughts. But Jesus' words were not about an evacuation plan. his mission was a transformation plan, so that God's will would be done down here on earth as it is in heaven. So that's a lot. That's what I mean by godliness. Living life to the full here in this world, in this time and place, and critical moment.
Thank you. So here at TPC, we have people that have been on this Christian journey their whole lives. We have some that have taken a break for many years and come back, and some that are just starting. And we love all, wherever we are on the journey, we celebrate and give thanks for that. And so, how do you think this book can speak to people at different parts of the journey, or have experienced the journey in different ways, but not their whole lives, kind of know biblical stories, and then some that are kind of just learning them for the first time?
So, let me do a little thought experiment with you all. I want each of you to think of your favorite movie, or one of your favorite movies of all time. And I want you to imagine that you've watched that movie enough times that it's completely lost. It's like you know the next thing everybody's going to say. But then I want you to imagine that you could somehow watch that movie again for the first time. And remember what it felt like when Elliot in E.T. was riding his bicycle, the bicycle takes off, or remembering what it's like in The Color Purple when the prodigal daughter comes home and the father actually, in a wild twist, the father is the one who's converted the prodigal son. Or whatever that favorite movie is. Well, I feel like the Bible is like 100 of the best movies all combined into one. And for all of us who grew up seeing them and we knew them and there's nothing, we have a chance to try to see things in a fresh light. Not just to go looking for the things we already know, but to try to see what is there. In that way, the people who are completely unfamiliar with the Bible almost have an advantage. And the folks that love years the Bible almost need to make sure you're sitting next to someone who's never read it before, so that their fresh eyes can rub off on you. So that's what I would say there. One last thing I'll say on that question. Something I hope you get a feel for in this book is that I ask you to consider the Bible in longer chunks. All of us who grew up in lectionary churches that use the Revised Common Lectionary, we're used to reading small snippets from different parts of the Bible. I've become convinced that that's one way to read the Bible. Nothing wrong with that. I'm a fan of that. But much of the written speaking in the Bible comes when you look at a series of stories in connection with each other. In other words, the meaning doesn't just arise within one individual story. It arises in the interaction of any number of different stories that are told in succession. I promise you that if you start noticing that, I'm virtually certain you'll agree. And it's something I try to do in the book. So even where you are reading a familiar story, hopefully I can put that story in conversation with a couple of stories before it and a couple of stories after it, and you'll begin to see some of those dynamic interactions and tensions and arguments that emerge in the biblical story.
Yeah, thank you. We've been seeing that through Genesis so far. We're up to chapter 8, and we're seeing those connections with those characters so well. This has been great. We have just a couple minutes left, so I want to open it up and see if anybody here has a question they'd like to ask Brian. Anybody? Yes, Towson.
I would like to know who he reads, and other than the Bible,
Yes.
who inspires him.
So Brian, the question was, what do you read? What authors do you read besides scriptures that inspire you and speak to your ongoing growing faith?
So first let me say, let me answer that in the obvious way by talking about theologians. One of the most important biblical theologians in my life was Walter Brueggemann, a Presbyterian theologian, in fact, who helped me read the Bible in the ways that we've just been talking about. Then, when I began to read theologians who weren't like Walter and me, aging white heterosexual males, I started reading theology from women theologians, from black theologians, from brown and Asian theologians. Oh my goodness, that started to enrich my reading of the Bible. But I would also have to say, and this is sort of my deepest answer, the thing that helps me read the Bible the most is reading good literature and good poetry. So, I would just, if you're interested in what I'm reading these days, I just read a novel called The Overstory, one of the best novels I've read. I don't know if any of you have read it. But every page of that story, I felt like deepened my ability to read literature. And then I come back to the Bible, and I've had that set of skills strengthened. And then I love poetry. You know, the poetry of Wendell Berry, Mary Oliver, David White, so many great poets. I love the poetry of Rumi and Hafiz. So, because those sensitize me to language and help me to enter into the biblical text where those kinds of sensitivities awaken. I can still hear you just fine.
One last question, anybody?
Thank you, brother. Thank him.
Thank you.
Brian, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
So we are just getting started in your book. We're just at the beginning of Genesis, but I am excited to see how we lead us through the stories of scriptures. That question that you asked at the end of each chapter is fantastic. A very broad question of what encouraged, warned, challenged you. And so if it works out, we'd love to do this again, possibly in March with you. It works your schedule when we go through your book again during Lent. So thanks so much for being with us. Have a great Sunday.
I look forward to that too. God bless you all. Keep up the good work.